Hello, my people. It's your Negro with Aptitude and host of the Blackboard, Mickey Lee. Happy over the hump day to ya, or as we like to call it here on the Blackboard, happy Waste Not Wednesdays. This is the series where we talk about food preparation, emergency preparation, growing food, new food trends as they scramble to try to replace the food that we're used to with other things that we are not. As you saw from the title, Australia is running out of rice. What? Yes. Well, let me give you the complete picture. Australia is running out of native grown rice. That is rice that is actually raised and harvested in Australia. The reason they're running out of rice is a few main reasons. Number one, Australia has been experiencing a drought for many, many years. And rice, not only is it a labor-intensive crop, but it requires lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of water. Even though Australia is in the middle of the ocean and is an island, they don't have enough of the right type of water to grow their rice crops. Another thing that is contributing to the fact that they will be running out of homegrown rice is the fact that they are distributing their water in various different ways. And the rice farmers, of course, they don't agree with it because the water distribution to their rice paddies is not enough for the rice to be grown. Now, here's the trouble, you guys. If you've been following this series or even any of the videos that I've done years ago on the fact that food shortages were coming, not only is rice not growing in Australia, it's actually not growing in Vietnam, the top producer of rice in the world. In fact, Vietnam's rice supply has been interrupted by floods. And it has also been interrupted by other weather events. Vietnam is not exporting or is beginning to ban exports of its rice to outside countries so that it has enough to feed its people. Australia does have an Australia-owned manufacturing plant for rice in Vietnam, but guess what? They have to get permission from the Vietnamese government in order to take that rice out of Vietnam and bring it to Australia. So far, it looks like the Vietnamese are agreeing to allow that to happen. But I can guarantee you, as the grand solar minimum intensifies, as weather events get more strange and more devastating, as the Lord intensifies his last efforts to wake up mankind to return to him, because that's what this is all about. The weather does not orchestrate itself. The weather does not direct itself. The sun does not diminish its own energy itself. And yes, people can track the grand solar minimum. It has happened over and over throughout civilization. The last time apparently was somewhere between 400 and 700 years ago. It wreaked devastation and people did survive it, but of course millions of people were lost and hundreds of millions of animals were lost in that last weather event. The difference here is now, number one, Israel is an established country. So that is a huge flag that we are in the last days, and Israel celebrated its 70th year. I believe it was last year or this year. There are also a number of astronomical events that have happened that have never happened before. We are also seeing people, just in general, the uptick in people losing their minds and just going totally bonkers is up. I have done other videos to kind of track some of the signs that we should be looking for to corroborate what the Bible calls the last days. And I will go ahead and either revamp that video or do a new one in the next coming week or so. But the point that I'm trying to make is these weather events, the intensity of the weather changes, the intensity of the earthquakes in diverse places, the droughts, the flood zones in places that were deserts, even bodies of water disappearing overnight, huge chasms dividing up land overnight. Places that have not bloomed in hundreds of years now becoming grow zones. These things just don't happen on their own. And I know we black folks, and primarily my channel is, my audience is black folks, but for any of you who are not black folks and want to hear the truth, black folks, we used to trust God, and we used to read our Bible, and we used to understand that God was in charge of these things. Now we've been mixed in too much with folks who have done everything in their power to deny God's presence. And unfortunately, in some regards, we are out whiting white folks. So listen, stop. Okay? Now, so why am I telling you about Australia running out of rice? Again, because this is a harbinger of things to come. Australia is growing rice when really it would have been more beneficial for them to grow things that were much more suited to their land, which rice is not. And now they're at the mercy of another country who also is having trouble growing rice and needs to feed its people. So all of this is linked up, and all of this, the overarching theme is this is God's way of trying to get our attention and getting anyone who will to come back to him now. All right, so if Australia is running out of rice, as are many other countries, and if you're in a country like the United States, where even though we produce pork, we produce beef, we produce soy, we produce corn, we produce all these things, and these crops have in fact also been devastated over the last few years by various weather events, and then you have the quote-unquote COVID-19, which has interrupted the supply chain, then you are going to have food shortages no matter where you go. The question is, how deep will the food shortages go? Hey, you've been to your supermarkets, you've seen your shelves not be nowhere near as full as usual. If you're paying close attention, you will be able to tell that over the last couple of years, things that you took for granted, such as a 5-pound sack of flour, it may cost the same, but if you look at the printing, it's now a 4.25 pound bag. It's not a 5-pound bag. Or if you're getting a 5-pound bag, the price has gone up significantly. So if these things are running out, what is it that they want us to eat instead? Let's take a look. So folks in the food production industry have been preparing for food shortages for a very, very long time. So what is happening is not a surprise to them. Now, some people have been looking for protein alternatives because they want to offer more to the vegetarian market. Folks who know that your body can live quite comfortably without animal products. And again, I am not a vegetarian as of this moment. I still consume meat, though I am doing so far less for reasons I've stated before, primarily because of the rampant animal abuse. No matter where these animals are found in the world, 9 times out of 10, they're living horrific lives, and then they have horrific deaths. And if you're going to eat something filled with fear, it's got to work its way into your body. And so I, for the sake of the animals and for the sake of myself, I am beginning to cut back. But others are looking for alternatives because they knew that the pork production, beef production, and other types of meat sources have been taking a hit for a while. So some of you will say, well, hey, that's all right. I don't need to eat any beef. I'll just go ahead and eat some Greek yogurt, or I'll eat some cottage cheese, or I'll drink some milk, or something like that. Well, if there's no cows, sweetheart, you're not going to eat any Greek yogurt made from a cow. You're not going to eat any cottage cheese from milk that comes from cows. You're not going to drink any milk that comes from cows either. Okay, and the same thing with pork. There are various things that come directly from the pig that if the pig doesn't exist, you're not going to eat it. So what are they proposing that we eat instead? Of course, for many, many years now, at least a few decades, we've been used to plant-based proteins, soy-based proteins, Morningstar burgers, vegetarian burgers, and, they taste really good, and some of them taste really good, and so forth and so on. Recently, a new product, the Impossible Burger, came on the market a year or two ago, and that's something you couldn't get me to eat if that was the last thing available to eat. So what are they doing with the Impossible Burger, as well as other types of products like that? Lab-grown meat. Lab-grown meat. What does that mean? It means that they take the muscle fibers, they take the muscle DNA, or the tissues rather, and they cultivate those tissues in a lab. They take it from the actual animal, but then they cultivate it in a lab, and then they produce it in a lab. So it no longer comes from an animal. Yes, the original genetic material does come from an animal, but it is continued to be produced and reproduced in a lab. Does that sound like a good idea to you? Okay. Another thing they're trying to put on our dinner plates here in the West, which has been on dinner plates for thousands of years in many places in the East, are bugs. Hey, look at that big fat one over there. Can't you just see yourself enjoying that with some barbecue sauce? Lip smacking good. That's right. So, yes, there's a lot of money going into trying to convince folks in the West, primarily Americans and then Europeans, that snails are not where we should stop. But we should embrace silkworms and all kinds of other types of creepy crawlies to get our protein source. Heads up, you guys. Not only do you have the vaccination coming at you, but you're going to have to get used to a whole new array of food really fast. Really, really fast. My suggestion to you is to hold on to Jesus Christ as soon as you possibly can, so you're ready to go at any time. But in the meantime, I want to let you know what's coming up so that you can wrap your head around it, possibly your mouth. Ooh. Hey, this is your Negro with aptitude and host of the Blackboard, Mickey Lee, signing off. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of The Blackboard. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, take a moment and check out the information located in the description box. There are lots of links and information about other people that I watch who do excellent content to help empower you and educate you so that you wind up on the right side of eternity. We'll see you next time.